Watch this before you board the last bus home. It might save your life.
Listen carefully, my friend. What I am about to tell you is not a story for entertainment. It is a warning wrapped inside a true account, the kind your grandmother would whisper to you before nightfall, the kind that makes you check the door twice before sleeping. Her name was Amaka. She was a market woman in a busy town, not rich, not poor, just a woman with a good heart and an honest spirit. Every morning she set up a vegetable store before sunrise. Every evening she packed it up after sunset. People knew her name. Children called her Auntie. Old women blessed her when she passed. Amaka had a gift that nobody envied, or so she thought. She could make anyone feel seen. A kind word here, a free tomato there, a listening ear when the world refused to listen. The market loved her. Life was simple and good, but the day her good news arrived, the day the doors of her future began to open, was also the day something dark began to move in the shadows around her, and it wore the face of someone she trusted completely. If only she had listened to the old warning. If only she had stayed away from the last bus. That morning began like a gift. Amaka arrived at her stall to find a message waiting, passed through her neighbor's hands, folded twice, still warm from being held so long. A government cooperative was selecting market women for a new trading loan scheme. Big money, real opportunity, the kind that could move a family from struggle to stability in one season. Her neighbor, Mrs. Obi, screamed with joy for her. Other women clapped and danced in the narrow market aisle. Amaka pressed the paper to her chest and said a quiet prayer of thanks. Then Bisi arrived. Bisi was her best friend, or the woman who called herself that. She had sharp eyes that smiled a little too slowly after good news. She wore fine clothes and spoke in sweet sentences. She had walked beside Amaka since childhood, always close, always present, always watching. When Bisi read the paper, she smiled, long, wide, the kind of smile that does not quite reach the eyes.
God has favorites.
She said lightly, folding the paper and handing it back.
Apparently.
Amaka laughed and hugged her. She did not notice that BC did not hug back. She did not see the way BC's jaw tightened as she turned away. The market was loud that day, full of noise and life, and people brushing shoulders. Amaka moved through it like she owned it, not with pride, but with belonging. Near the far end of the stalls, she heard laughter. Cruel laughter, the kind aimed at something helpless. A group of traders stood around an old woman whose bag had torn open, scattering yams across the dirty ground. Nobody helped. Some kicked the yams aside to clear their path. Amaka did not hesitate. She crouched, gathered the yams with both hands, found a stronger bag from her stall, and helped the old woman repack everything. She added a small bunch of vegetables as a gift. The old woman looked at her for a long moment. Her eyes were still and deep, like water that had no bottom. Then she reached out and gripped Amaka's wrist. Not hard, but firm, like she needed to make sure Amaka was listening through her skin, not just her ears.
God will reward your kindness, my daughter,
She said. Then her voice dropped.
but hear me. If night catches you outside, do not enter the last bus. Whatever you do, do not enter the last bus.
Amaka smiled, nodded politely, and thought nothing more of it.
We'll see.
She would remember those words soon enough. By midday, Bisi had made herself comfortable at Amaka's stall, the way she always did, sitting on the small stool, eating from Amaka's food flask, talking more than she helped. Amaka never minded. That was just Bisi. You know, Bisi said between bites, when you get that loan, you should expand. Take the big stall near the entrance. I'll help you manage everything. Amaka smiled. We'll see. I'm serious, Bisi said. Nobody will fight for you the way I will. You know that. And Amaka believed her. She had believed her for years, through breakups, through losses, through the death of Amaka's mother. Bisi had always been there, always steady, always close. What Amaka could not see was what happened after she stepped away to help a customer. Bisi sat alone for a moment, staring at the folded loan letter sitting beside the food flask. Her face changed. The sweetness drained out of it like water from a cracked cup. And what remained underneath was something older and harder. She whispered to no one, voice barely above her breath. Let us see who the town will praise tomorrow. Then she smiled again as Amaka returned. And the smile looked exactly as it always had. Amaka noticed him only because he did not look away. Most people in the market moved with purpose, buying, selling, arguing, laughing. But this man stood still near the row of pauper sellers, watching. He was not looking at the goods. He was looking at Amaka. He was not old, not young, plain clothes, quiet face. He held nothing and bought nothing. He just stood there, eyes steady on her store, on her bag, on her, wearing a faint smile that felt too private for a stranger's face. Amaka shifted uncomfortably and looked away. When she looked back, he was still there, still watching, still smiling. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a single coin. He held it above the ground between two fingers and released it. The coin fell and it landed on its edge, standing upright on its edge, not rolling, not flat, just standing perfectly still, as if the ground had agreed to hold it that way. The man looks at the coin, then he looked at Amaka, then he walked away without a word. Amaka felt a cold shiver move through her despite the afternoon heat. She told herself it meant nothing. She almost believed it. By late afternoon, the market was buzzing with the story again, the way it did every few weeks when something reminded people to be afraid. The last bus. Everyone had heard the stories. A woman who boarded it 3 rains ago and came home with a face that forgot how to recognize her children. A trader who rode it and never arrived. Though the bus driver swore, he dropped everyone at their stop. A young man who boarded on a Thursday and woke up on Sunday with mud on his shoes and no memory between. Most people laughed at these stories. Old women's talk, said Chiki the provision seller, waving his hand. Fear is just boredom in a costume. Others agreed. The stories were old. The world had moved on. Every town had its superstitions. It didn't mean anything. Amaka half listened while arranging her remaining stock. She had heard the stories too. She had even repeated them to her children once as a playful warning. Nobody really believed them, except the bus park announcer had a habit that no one quite explained. Every evening, without fail, he would lean into his old crackled speaker and say the same thing. Last bus leaves when the rain begins, not if the rain begins. The afternoon stretched long, and Amaka could feel it slipping away. A young mother came to the store near closing time, crying quietly behind her wrapper. Her child was sick. She had no money for food. Amaka looked at the woman, looked at her remaining stock, and gave her everything she needed, free. By the time she finished packing her own store, the early buses were gone. The sky had turned that heavy gray. That means rain is not a question, only a matter of when. Amaka stood at the bus park entrance, calculating. She could walk 40 minutes uphill through roads that flooded fast, or she could wait. She was still deciding when Bissy appeared beside her, fresh and unbothered, as if placed there by an invisible hand. "Why are you standing there?" Bissy asked. "The rain is coming,"
I miss the early buses.
Amaka said. Bissy looked at the sky, then at the last bus, its engine already grumbling, headlights already cutting through the gray evening air. "Don't worry," Bissy said, taking her arm gently. "I know the last bus driver. You'll be fine." And because Amaka trusted her, she walked toward the bus without another thought. The door of the last bus was cold. Amaka noticed it when she grabbed the handrail to pull herself up. Metal is always cold, but not like this. Not cold, like something that had been kept in deep water. Not cold, like something that had never known warmth. She almost stepped back, but Bissy was already behind her, hand lightly on her back, moving her forward. "Go in, go in. The rain is starting." And the rain did start. Suddenly, all at once. The way rain arrives in this part of the world, not gradually, but like a curtain being torn open. Amaka moved to a seat near the middle of the bus. She settled her bag on her lap and tried to shake the unease crawling up her arms. The bus smelled different. Not like exhaust and unwashed bodies the way buses always smelled. It smelled like earth after a long drought, dry and deep and waiting. Across the aisle, a young mother held a small baby. The baby had been crying softly since Amaka boarded. But the moment Amaka sat down, the baby stopped. It turned its head slowly and stared at Amaka. Not the stare of a confused infant. Something more direct, more knowing. Amaka looked away first. The bus pulled out of the park and the streetlights began to fall behind. Amaka counted the passengers to calm herself, a habit her mother had taught her on long journeys. 7 people, including herself. She fixed each face in her mind, the young mother with the baby, an old man asleep against the window, 2 young men talking quietly, a woman in a yellow blouse, and a heavy-set man near the back. She looked away for a moment, watching the road. Then she counted again. 9. She blinked, counted once more, carefully, finger moving slightly. 7. The numbers would not stay still. Every time she looked away and looked back, the count was different. Not by much, never by much, but different. She told herself she was tired. She told herself the rain drumming on the roof was distracting her. Then the conductor moved through the bus collecting fares. He reached Amaka last. He did not ask her name. He did not look at her ticket. He looked directly into her face and said clearly and without hesitation, "Amaka, your stop is far tonight." She had not told him her name. She had not told anyone on that bus her name. The conductor moved on as if nothing unusual had happened. The road changed. It happened slowly, the way bad things often do, so gradually that you cannot point to the exact moment everything went wrong. The tarred road became gravel. The gravel became dirt. The streetlights had long since disappeared, replaced by nothing but the thin white beam of the bus headlights pressing against the darkness that felt thick, almost solid. Amaka pressed her face close to the window. There were no houses, no other cars, no roadside stalls with kerosene lamps, just trees on both sides, tall and steel, like people standing at attention. She whispered to the woman in the yellow blouse beside her.
Is this the correct road?
The woman looked at her strangely but said nothing. Amaka turned to look at the driver. His back was straight, his hands loose on the wheel, his head slightly forward as if he were listening for something. Then she heard it. He was humming, low, slow, a tune that moved in circles rather than forward. Amaka knew that tune. She had heard it only at funerals. The women who washed the dead would hum it while they worked. Her mother had told her never to hum it at night. Her mouth went dry. Outside, the trees did not end. Amaka needed to see the driver's face. Even just a part of it, in the rearview mirror, briefly, to confirm he was just a man driving down a wrong road. Nothing more frightening than human error. She watched the mirror. It showed her the bus. It showed the passengers behind her. It showed the rain-streaked back window. It did not show the driver. Not because the angle was wrong. She adjusted her position 3 times. The mirror was angled directly at the driver's seat and should have shown his face clearly. Instead, the mirror's edges were fogged, as if smoke was gathering inside the glass itself. Amaka gripped her bag tighter. Then the conductor appeared in the aisle again, moving toward the back. He stopped beside the heavy-set man near the rear and did not collect money. He leaned down and whispered something. Then he held out his palm. The man reached slowly into his shirt and placed something small and dark into the conductor's hand. The conductor closed his fist around it and nodded once. "Good," the conductor said quietly. "Then you may stay on." Amaka looked away. Her heart was hammering like a fist against a locked door, and the mirror behind her showed nothing but smoke. The bus slowed without warning. Not a gradual stop, a sudden, lurching stillness, as if the road itself had grabbed the wheels. The passengers jolted forward. The baby cried once, sharp and brief, then went silent again. "Stop here," said one of the young men near the front. "I need to get down." The conductor looked at him. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Yes," the young man said, standing. "This is near enough." The conductor shrugged and pulled the door lever. The door opened. There was no road outside, no path, no streetlight, no building, no landmark, just forest, deep, dark, and breathing. Trees pressed tight against each other like a crowd that had been waiting a long time. The young man hesitated. He looked at the conductor. He looked outside. He shifted his bag. Then he stepped out. The door closed. Amaka turned to watch through the back window as the bus began moving again. There was no young man on the road behind them. There was nothing, just the dark and the trees and the rain falling into a space that looked, even from the window, like it had always been empty. Amaka pressed her hand over her mouth. She did not scream, but only just. Amaka did not remember the rest of the ride. One moment, she was gripping her bag in the dark, pulse hammering, watching for anything familiar. The next moment, she was standing at the end of her own street, feet wet, wrapper damp. The bus already gone. No engine sound, no headlights, no evidence it had ever been there. She walked to a door and locked it behind her. Inside, she sat on the floor, with her back against the door, and just breathed. Home. She was home. It was over. But the feeling that followed her inside would not sit down. It paced. It pressed against the corners of the room. She checked the windows twice, then a third time. She noticed it when she stepped past the hallway mirror. Her shadow was behind her, as it should be, but it moved a half-second late, as if it had to remember to follow. She stopped walking. The shadow caught up and stopped too. She told herself it was tiredness, bad lighting, imagination. But that night she dreamed. She dreamed of a bus parked inside a graveyard, engine running, headlights burning through the dark. And every grave it faced had a name she recognized. Within a week, the market had changed. It started small, the way curses always start. A woman tripped over Amaka's crate and broke her wrist. 2 days later, the pepper seller, who always greeted her warmly, found his entire stock had turned overnight. The next morning, a child running past Amaka's stall fell and bloodied her knees. Small things, coincidences, the kind you dismiss once, maybe twice, 3 times becomes a pattern. Our people in a market notice patterns. Whispers moved from stall to stall like smoke. Customers who had bought from her for years found reasons to buy elsewhere. People began stepping around the table rather than past it. Then Funk said it aloud, where everyone could hear. Since that woman started coming with that heavy spirit, nothing has been right in this row. Others nodded. Amaka stood behind her stall, tears burning but refusing to fall, watching the people she had served for years look at her like something to be avoided. Then an old provisions man spoke up, voice certain and unmoved. I saw her on the last bus, Tuesday night, with my own 2 eyes. Tuesday night. Amaka had never left her compound. Her blood went cold. BC came that afternoon. She arrived with food and fury, defending Amaka to everyone who would listen, voice raised and righteous, arms spread wide. Leave my friend alone. Is it her fault? Bad luck is visiting this market. Does suffering have an owner? She put her arm around Amaka and held her, while Amaka's tears finally fell. They are jealous, BC said softly. Your breakthrough is coming, and they know it. This is how people behave when God is about to move for you. Amaka cried harder. She held BC tighter. What would she do without this woman? BC walked her home that evening. She prayed with her at the door. She said goodnight with a warm smile. Then she left. And Amaka, if she had followed her, if she had simply walked to the corner and turned, would have seen BC stop outside a compound 3 streets away, would have seen BC knock a specific pattern on a specific door, would have seen her slip inside a back room that had no window and no visible purpose. And if she had been close enough, she might have heard BC's voice through the wall. 2 words, low and satisfied. It's working. By the second week, a name had risen above all others as the likely cause of Amaka's suffering. The quiet man, the one with the standing coin. His name, people said, was Amaka, though no one was entirely sure. He appeared in the market without ever seeming to buy or sell. He had no stall, no regular trade, no friends anyone could name. He watched women. He watched their bags. He was seen near the last bus stop more than once. The accusations piled up quickly. By the 3rd day, a small crowd had formed near his usual corner. By the 4th, someone had thrown water on him in the street. Children pointed. Amaka did not shout. He did not fight back. He stood in the middle of the noise and the accusations, straight and still, and said only this. I have done nothing to that woman. What is happening to her was arranged by someone who knows her bedsheets, not by a stranger who knows only her face. The crowd booed him. But Amaka, standing at the edge of the group, heard every word. He looked directly at her. Not threatening, not strange, just steady. Search your friends, he said quietly, not strangers. Then he turned and walked away without hurrying. The suffering moved indoors. Amaka had managed to keep her home separate from the market gossip. But now it followed her through her own front door. Her partner, Chukwuemeka, had heard the talk. He was a proud man, private and careful about how the world saw him. He came home one evening, quieter than usual, carrying questions he did not know how to ask. They ate in near silence. Then he put down his fork and looked at her. People are saying things, he said. I know, Amaka replied. I don't believe everything, he said carefully. But Amaka, there are things in this house that feel different. The air feels heavy. The children are sleeping badly. The business, I have done nothing wrong, she said. He nodded slowly, too slowly. I know. I believe you. A pause. I just need to understand. He looked at her across the table, eyes searching. What happened on that bus? What did you bring home from that road? It was the first time in 15 years that she felt like a stranger in her own home. That night, she could not sleep. She lay in the dark and heard the bus in her dreams again. Engine running, parked among graves, waiting, always waiting. She remembered it in the sleepless middle of that night. Before she had boarded the bus, Bissy had pressed something into her hand, small and hard, wrapped in cloth. For protection, Bissy had said, smiling, my grandmother made it. Keep it in your bag. Amaka had accepted it without thinking. The way you accept things from people you trust. She tucked it into the inside pocket of her bag and forgot it. She sat up now, reached for the bag and searched. The inside pocket was empty. She checked every compartment, turned the bag inside out, laid everything on the bed, purse, handkerchief, receipts, the school fees envelope, and went through it all twice. Nothing. She sat back, trying to remember whether she had ever taken it out. She was certain she had not. Then she pulled back her pillow to straighten the sheets. There it was, the same cloth, the same small hard shape, sitting beneath her pillow, in her locked room, soaking wet, as if it had spent the night out in the rain. Amaka did not touch it. She did not sleep. She sat on the edge of the bed and watched it until the sun came through the window. She found the old woman the next morning. Or perhaps the old woman found her, the one from the market, the one whose yams had scattered, the one who had gripped her wrist and given the warning. She appeared at the edge of the market at dawn, before any stalls were open, sitting on an upturned crate as if she had been waiting all night. Amaka sat beside her without speaking. Something about the woman's stillness made words feel unnecessary. After a long silence, the old woman spoke.
You boarded it.
She said. It was not a question. Amaka nodded.
That bus is not only a bus,
The old woman said.
it is a doorway. It has been used by certain people for a long time to move things that cannot be moved in daylight. Favor, destiny, the bright future that God puts in a person's path. It can be stolen, transferred, and the one it is stolen from is left like an empty cup.
Amaka's hands were trembling. The old woman turned to look at her directly. Her eyes were the calmest thing Amaka had ever seen.
Something was taken from you on that ride,
she said. Then she asked the question that changed everything.
Who insisted that you board it?
The old woman brought three things: prayers, fire, and truth. She came to Amaka's home 3 evenings later. She moved through every room slowly, speaking words Amaka did not recognize. Old language, root language, the kind that doesn't need to apologize for what it says. She burned herbs in a clay pot. She prayed over the children while they slept. Then she sat with Amaka in the center of the living room and prayed until the candles bent sideways in air that was not moving. In the middle of the prayer, Amaka felt it, a shaking that started in her feet and rose upward like water filling a vessel. Her body moved without her permission. Words came out of her mouth in a voice not quite her own, not dangerous words, but grief words, the kind locked inside a person too long. Grief that had been placed there by someone else's hands. Then silence, deep, total silence. The old woman opened her eyes and looked at Amaka for a long moment.
The enemy is not far,
she said.
They feed you comfort with one hand and poison with the other. The same mouth that cried with you arranged your crying.
Amaka knew then what her heart had been refusing to say. Amaka chose her words with care. The next afternoon, she invited Bisi for tea, the way she always did, as if nothing had shifted. They sat across from each other in the small parlor, cups, warm, afternoon light coming through the window in long stripes.
Busy,
Amaka said gently. The charm you gave me before I boarded the bus. I found it under my pillow, soaking wet, in a locked room. She paused.
Do you know how it got there?
Something moved across Bisi's face, fast, like a shadow crossing water, gone before it fully formed. In its place came wide, wounded eyes. Amaka, her voice trembled perfectly. Are you accusing me after everything I've done for you?
I'm not accusing, I'm asking.
BC stood up, hands trembling, chin lifted. I have defended you in that market while everyone called you cursed. And this is how you repay me? The tears came, convincing, practiced. But before she turned to leave, she said one more thing. Low and cold. The performance briefly forgotten. If you expose me, you will lose more than your name. The door closed. The tea went cold, and Amaka sat very still with the truth she now fully held. Emeka found her. 3 days after the confrontation with BC, Amaka was at her stall when the quiet man appeared. No strange coin this time, no distant watching. He walked directly to her and placed a folded piece of paper on her table without a word. Amaka looked at it, then at him. Open it, he said softly. She unfolded it carefully. It was a torn section of what looked like an old route paper, the kind bus conductors used to carry, marked with stops and connections. But this one was different. Along the margins were symbols she did not recognize, small drawn marks that repeated in a pattern. She turned the paper over. Her breath stopped. On the other side, in handwriting she had seen 1,000 times, on birthday cards and market lists and borrowed notebooks, were 2 lines of instructions, old instructions, written in a hand she knew as well as her own. BC's handwriting. I found that near the bus park, Emeka said quietly. The same night you were on that bus. I kept it because I didn't know whose life it concerned until I saw your suffering. He nodded once and stepped back. Now you know, he said. What you do with knowing is up to you. The old woman did not hesitate when Amaka showed her the paper. She held it at its edges, read both sides twice, then set it down and folded her hands.
Tonight?
She said. They arrived at the bus park just before midnight. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that listens back. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still wet. And the entrance, street light, flickered in a slow, tired rhythm. They sat on a bench near the edge and waited. At 5 minutes past midnight, Amaka heard it. An engine, slow and heavy. The sound of something large that did not hurry. The last bus rolled into the park from the far end of the road. No visible passengers. Engine running. Headlights burning. It parked in its usual spot as if nothing about this night was unusual. The door opened. The conductor stepped down, straightened his shirt, and looked across the empty park. Then a figure came walking quickly through the gate, moving with purpose, head slightly forward. Unaware she was being watched. The conductor's face changed into something warm and waiting. Recognition. Madam, he said clearly, his voice carrying across the stillness. Your seat is ready. He was looking directly at BC. BC stopped walking. For 1 full second, she stood perfectly still, caught between the conductor's welcome and the 2 figures sitting silent on the bench in the dark. The old woman and Amaka. Something cracked behind her eyes. What is this? She asked. Her voice had lost all its softness. This was not the BC who cried perfect tears. This was the older, harder thing beneath. The old woman stood slowly.
The road remembers,
She said.
You used it. You paid for its help, and now it has come to collect the rest of its debt.
Amaka. BC's voice shifted, urgent now. Amaka, listen to me. I did what I had to do. You were always ahead, always praised, always blessed, from childhood. Do you know what that feels like, to always be second? Amaka looked at her and said nothing. There were no more words needed. I never meant for it to go this far, BC said, voice cracking now. I only wanted to slow you down, just a little, just enough.
You wanted to steal what God put in her path,
The old woman said simply.
and you used a road that charges more than you budgeted.
The conductor had not moved. He stood at the open door, patient, unhurried, waiting. BC ran. She sprinted toward the park gate, shoes slapping the wet ground, head down. Amaka watched without moving. The old woman watched without moving. The bus engine did not change its sound, but the bus moved, without a driver, without a hand on the wheel. It rolled forward slowly, cutting off the path to the gate. BC veered right. The bus adjusted. She veered left. It was already there, idling, door open, waiting. She stopped. She turned once to look at Amaka. In that moment, her face held everything she had hidden for 20 years. The envy, the planning, the smiles that had never once been clean. All of it exposed in the wet midnight light. The conductor placed one hand on the door frame. Madam, he said simply. BC stepped onto the last bus. The door closed. The engine rose, deep and certain, then faded as the bus moved down the road and did not come back. In the weeks after, Amaka's name was cleared. The loan came through. Her household found peace. She never explained. She never needed to. But every time she passed the bus park, she paused, just briefly, and remembered. And the old announcer still said it every single evening. Last bus leaves when the rain begins.
Share this story with someone who needs to hear it and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.